Dumpthany Hat Tano here, the internet's busiest music nerd. Don't need to be wearing a hat or anything. And it's time for a review of the new Code Orange album, Forever. This is the third full-length album from this Pittsburgh band. Their first, though, for Roadrunner Records, a label switch that I was kind of skeptical of going into this album, especially considering how snug of a fit Death Wish seemed to be for the band, considering their very aggressive blend of metalcore and hardcore punk. Roadrunner, on the other hand, has always been sort of a true blue, modern metal label for me. And it seems like Code Orange has kind of stepped up to the plate in terms of delivering an uncompromisingly heavy album. Certainly their most metal effort to date, I guess. Now, this thing is one of the most brain-battering and invigorating metalcore records that I've heard in a while. At least, you know, a metalcore record that Nails didn't write. Breakdowns and all, this record is actually very good. It's fantastically visceral, gargantuan in its size and its power, and it's actually pretty diverse too. There are moments on this thing where the band works in some melodic guitar leads or some rhythm guitars into the background of these bone-crushing riffs, or some electronic or industrially tinged percussion hanging in the background to make things really punchy and digital. And occasionally we get some clean vocals from bassist Reba Myers, whose voice I have also enjoyed on Adventures albums. She actually kind of steals the show on this record on the song Bleeding in the Blur, a sinister alt-metal throwback that sticks out in the track listing like a sore thumb because it's not a metalcore song, but still, the menacingly loud guitars that encase many of the tracks on this album also turn up on this song, so it does make it feel at least a little consistent. The band also goes slightly alt-metal on the chorus of the song Ugly too, but to go back to those guitars, no matter where the band goes stylistically on this album, those guitars are the common thread that weave this record together. Even when the band goes kind of dark wave on the song Hurt Goes On, the first 2/3 of this track sounds like it could have been off the last Prurient album, like really icy synths that are just throbbing really tensely, and then all of a sudden we get this explosive, heavy guitar foundation finish. I've heard some people complain about how often this album veers away from that metalcore sound, and in my opinion, it doesn't do it that often, at least not so often that it disrupts the flow of the album. And even when the band does veer away from that in a bold way, there is at least some note of heaviness somewhere to be found. If anybody's going to have a hard time getting into this record, I think it's people who are generally not metalcore fans. And what I'd like to say to those people is that this is not just your average meat and potatoes metalcore album. These songs are loaded with some really weird, intriguing, and experimental details, as well as subtle references to other genres outside of the metalcore circle. It's just kind of a matter of whether or not you're going to stick around and listen to the secrets that the band are kind of whispering through these experimental edits and sound effects amongst these roaring guitars and bombshell drum hits. And not to say that the core sound of this album can't be appreciated, it certainly can, because for a metalcore album, this thing is painfully dark. It is apocalyptic. It's not just this dick-hardening show of machismo, except for maybe that one part on the song Real. This is real now! Motherfucker! Proceed to the breakdown. Yeah, it sounds pretty funny when I put it like that, and I don't mean to write off this breakdown or any breakdown on this album or the art of the breakdown in general. For sure, the breakdown had been overdone and oversimplified to the point in the 2000s where I just wanted to banish it to hell. But Code Orange's approach to the breakdown is so invigorating and visceral that I'm actually excited to hear these sounds again on a new album. These sluggish, heavy staccato riffs, especially on tracks like The Mud, whose final moments are some of the most hellish on the entire album. And the song structures on this record are kind of odd too. You know, this isn't just your normal verse, chorus, verse affair over here. A lot of these songs are these twisted labyrinths of explosia and viscera and heavy breakdown orgasma. I'm just making up shit to kind of get my point across here. Even though the these songs are a little difficult to pin down structure-wise, each of them remain powerful and exciting from start to finish. And potent too, as this album just stands at over 30 minutes, the band doesn't really give themselves a whole lot of room to insert filler here or there. Although I will say that I thought the song Dream 2 was kind of an unnecessary epilogue to the entire record, as the track Hurt Goes On already sounded and felt like a pretty fitting closer. Dream 2 felt like just a semi-interesting motif. It was cool to hear Reba Meyer's vocals on the lead again on the record, but maybe it would have worked best as an interlude at some point on the album, especially with so many heavy tracks going back to back to back. And if I am being honest, the song No One Is Untouchable doesn't really bring anything that a lot of the previous tracks didn't already, except for another invigorating performance, especially on the vocal side. And the vocals generally on this album, across the whole record, are so animalistic and so incredibly guttural and in your face and energizing and enraged. This is, hands down, without question, Code Orange's best album yet. While I did love the heaviness of their last record, I feel like they were still yet to fully come into their own, and I think that they have done it, or at least they are their closest to doing that on this record over here. Sure, maybe they couldn't settle entirely on one single sound for the entire album here, but at least the moments where they veer outside of that metalcore comfort zone, they're bringing elements of that sound with them. And the way the band experiments with this traditionally basic genre on this record gives me hope for the future of metalcore, because all over this thing, they take some real risks and fuse the genre with some really interesting and unlikely influences, and without compromising its uncompromising sound. This thing is a killer album, blood-pumping album, deadly album, kind of album that rips your head off and your heart out. Could have stuck the landing a little bit better at the end, but I'm loving this record. Definitely going to be one of my favorite loud rock records of the year, I think. I'm feeling a light to decent 8 on this thing. Tran.
This is real drug music. Real prescription drug music. Prescriptions that people need to live, dude. These Democrats trash, they all fucking trash. Call these bitches, tell them you want photo prescriptions. These Democrats trash, they all fucking trash. Call these bitches, tell them you want photo prescriptions. These Democrats trash, they all fucking trash. Call these bitches, tell them you want photo prescriptions. These Democrats trash, they all fucking trash. Call these bitches, tell them you want a photo prescription. You voted against that Bernie shit. Why? What's wrong with it? It's just fucking drugs from Canada. They got like almost the same fucking safety regulations we do. What are you, a retard? Like, you're actively voting against the affordability of medicines that people need to live, you dipshit. What are you, fucking stupid? Jesus Christ. I thought you were supposed to represent the interests of the people. It's Canada, it's not a third world country. Even Ted Cruz, the fucking Zodiac killer, voted yes on this shit.